And so we are live this evening with Robert Dilts and Mickey Feher. Robert is in Paris and Mickey is in New York. So we really are crossing continents this evening.
We are, yes.
And you're here with us this evening to tell us a bit more about your presentation at the NLP Conference next year. So
yes.
please do.
We're very, very excited. And just first of all, I want to just say a big thank you to you and to Cash and to the NLP Conference team for really being what a great example of resilience in this time, this big challenging time. So just really want to send you a lot of appreciation.
Thank you, and thank all the presenters. But thank you and Nikki for sticking with us throughout all of this and riding this journey with us.
Great to be here. Great to be here. We were speaking a little bit about the conference with Robert, and what a great example it is to come together at a time where we really need to be together, rather than we're all locked up in our little boxes, but there's a way to come together, and here we are.
Yeah, we can. And doing that virtually this year for the first time, I think this must be also a lot of new ground, a lot of going over the threshold into new territories.
Absolutely, and isn't it interesting how flexible we all suddenly find ourselves?
Yes, the law of requisite variety, they say. So the more flexible we are, the more that we're able to keep, to stay resilient and achieve what we want to achieve, our deepest intention, which in a way is what our presentation is about. Speaking of which, and I thought maybe I know probably a lot of people do know me or know of me, but I'd like to also make sure that Mickey has a little bit of a chance to introduce himself. So I'm of course been a trainer, author, consultant, coach, etc., and NLP developer for 45 years now, and I have my place here in Paris and also in California, and I'm founder of the NLP University, along with the International Association for Generative Change, and then the Dilts Strategy Group, which is the sort of the place where success factor modeling emerged from. Kind of a variety of things that I'm involved in and doing. And of course, I've also written quite a few books. I think it's up to 27 or 28 that I've authored or co-authored. But I want to give Mickey a chance to introduce himself to people, because I think, he's our co-presenter. So.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah. So, just introducing myself, I was actually born in Budapest, Hungary. And so I come from Central Europe, but I lived a little bit in the Middle East, in Israel, and I actually live in the US now, in New York City. And, my background is, first of all, business. So I spent about 15 years working for large corporations like T-Mobile and Deloitte in consulting, and also in sales and marketing. And then I came out, and I'm the founder of Purpose and Company, which is an organizational development company working with large and medium-sized companies, supporting leadership teams. The second project that I founded is Mentor Shift, which is kind of playing on the word man and shift, which is this idea that men are in a difficult place today. I don't know if you've noticed, but women are quite evolved and men have kind of stayed back a little bit. And we really need to think about our role and what it means in leadership and fatherhood and parenting and friendship. So that's the second project. And the third is a project which we are doing, a company that we founded called Mindset Maps International with Robert. And this is about mindset and mindset shift for leaders, entrepreneurs. And you can probably tell that there's a thread here, of mindset connecting all of that. So that's me.
Mickey is also very humble, but he's also been published in Psychology Today and Forbes magazine for articles that he's written. So
we are very honored to be in such a esteemed company this evening.
We're humbled, yeah.
So so we thought maybe just, and I know this is primarily for Q&A, but we thought maybe we give a little bit of sort of a high level overview of what we're planning to cover in the presentation, and then see what questions that you guys might have, and then what anybody following on Facebook might have for us. I thought, yeah. So the basic presentation is about success factor modeling, and the second part is tools for the future. And I thought I might just address a little bit about the whole background of success factor modeling. It's something that I started with my brother John Dilts, who unfortunately passed away about 10 years ago, but we started this 20 years ago. And the whole idea was to look at what are key success factors in successful individuals, teams, and organizations. In fact, I thought I might just briefly share my screen for a moment, because sometimes I think it's a little easier to explain things with some visual background. So the idea of success factor modeling is like all modeling, and especially with NLP, is to really explore this question, what's the difference that makes the difference between somebody who is, very successful, somebody who is average, somebody who struggles. What are some of those key success factors? And this has been again a work for the past 20 years, looking at successful entrepreneurs, and there's that first book there on next generation entrepreneurs, but also on what we would call collective intelligence, and especially an aspect of collective intelligence that has to do with working together creatively. So we call that generative collaboration. A third area is conscious leadership and resilience, which I think is obviously extremely important also for this time. And then another book that Mickey is one of the co-authors on, called the Generative Consulting. So, and Mickey and I have known each other, Mickey, for probably 6 years now?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and Mickey is actually a member of the Success Factor Modeling leadership team. And that's one of the authors there. Anything you might want to add about that, Mickey?
Yeah, just to the point of generative consulting. So, when I worked for a corporation that I will not name, but they're a top consulting organization, in my first training, the mentor told us, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you don't develop any deep relationship with your customers, because that's not helpful in consulting. And so, I took the advice. It came from somebody who had gray hair and looked like very intelligent. So why not believe him? But eventually realized that, that kind of consulting has certain constraints. And so, one of the reasons why we've put that book together, and it's just been published about 3 weeks ago. So it's available now, was this idea that consulting needs a reboot. We need like a consulting 2.0 or 3.0 or maybe 10.1, right? Because we need to bring these principles, these amazing NLP principles and generativity into business, because if we can't influence business, we can't influence the world. So, that's sort of how it came about.
By the way, I did forget in all the introduction of you, Mickey, too, we left out that you actually are also an NLP trainer, and you actually have been to the NLP University trainer training. So you do know what you're talking about with NLP.
Yeah, I had good teachers.
So yeah, and I think actually it's very interesting, because kind of the whole approach of success factor modeling is to look at the interplay between these three fundamental aspects of our life and our experience. First and foremost is the notion of mindset, and as you'll see, that's going to be a big theme through what this presentation that we're going to be giving, at the conference is about, because we say, mindset, how we think, that produces how we act. It's like our software, it's the inner software, and that's what's going to determine how our biocomputer and the rest of us function. And the way that we function, the actions are going to determine what kind of outcomes we achieve. And the basic principle of success factor modeling, which has its foundation obviously in NLP, is that if I want to achieve a certain outcome, means I'm going to then need to take certain actions. And if I'm to know which actions to take, I'm going to need to have the right mindset.
And this is something that, everybody agrees with. It's like parenting, everybody knows about parenting. Everybody knows how to be a father or a mother. But when the rubber hits the road, we get worried, like, how do I really know how to do this? Maybe I don't. So, mindset is like that. Everybody knows about mindset, but like, how do you control your mindset? Are you in charge, or is your mindset in charge of you, perhaps?
Right. That's the ultimate question of NLP, right? Am I in charge of the programming, or is the programming running me? Am I more than my programming? And I think this is also the big question here. And that part of what we would say about the important thing about mindset is that it's different than personality, meaning your personality, you can't change. It's just who you are. But your mindset, it's like what we say in NLP, our programming is actually something that is subject to, making a difference. And the kinds of things that we look at in SFM are, probably some are familiar with the levels pyramid here, but, our outcomes are typically what we achieve in our concrete environment. And, in today's environment, we've got a lot of disruption. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of constraints, a lot of disruption, but there's equally as much opportunity and, options. And I think, again, what you guys have done with the conference is a good example of that. Really, having to reboot in a way how we're doing things. And of course, that means we have to take different actions and new actions. But to do that, and this is what the whole mindset area is about, you're then looking at sort of these other levels that are not so visible. They only show up in the consequences that they have on our behavior and on the outcomes that we achieve. And that has to do with these other levels of, how, why, who, for whom, or, capabilities, values, beliefs, identity, and purpose.
Right. So our little obsession at some point with Robert was like, yeah, I mean, we understand the pyramid. We have tools to work on our skills and values and beliefs and identity. But what if we were able to map out how that mindset shifts for different goals? And so that's what we came up with, like a tool that helps to do that. But I'm running a little bit ahead, so I'm going to hold off on my horses.
Well, basically what SFM produces is a series of models. And these are some of the models from the different books. The Circle of Success, which is from the Next Generation Entrepreneur, the Collective Intelligence model, which is from the Generative Collaboration book, the Leadership model, which is from Conscious Leadership and Resilience, and then what we call the Diamond model, which is from the Generative Consulting. So the thing is that SFM, as you can see, is fairly, how do I say, it has a fairly wide reach, and there's a lot to it. And what we want to do in our presentation is to boil that down into what are, again, if we took all of these, the key aspects of all of these different models, what would be some of the most important things and that we could put into a tool.
I love it when there is a key aspect that's going to come out of something, because I think that's what encourages people to, it's when they can take something away. Especially, it's a relatively short presentation. It's 90 minutes of pure luxury, and it's very short. So having that ability to be able to gift something to everybody who's going to be listening is and watching is a real gift. So so what else are people going to be able to take away from
what are they going to take away? Yeah. Glad that you asked. And in that presentation, we'll have all the time we need in 90 minutes to do it. Mickey, I'll pass that over to you to take.
Yeah, and that's the nature of luxury. You can't have too much of it, because then it's no longer luxury, right? So for us, when we thought about this, I already kind of jumped into this question of, okay, mindset. So mindset is something, and I'm going to use a few slides here as well, just to you know, I learned somewhere, I don't know, was it NLPU or something, where they said that, you know, multiple channels are better than just one channel. But anyway, this idea that, you know, mindset is something that we all experience it, even if, you know, you're not very self-reflective, you know, I can observe it in others. So, you know, on one hand, we think we are experts at it because we are, right? Like we know it. But on the other hand, we have no idea how to put a handle on it. And I was, you know, we were brainstorming here with Robert, like who is going to come to the conference? Well, based on our experience, it's either going to be somebody who is in the helping profession, you know, like a psychologist or a therapist or a minister or a coach, or it's going to be somebody who is maybe involved in HR and running an HR department, or, you know, you might be a business leader, or you might have your own enterprise, or you have a combination of those, right? So we were trying to think, okay, so what are we going to give to these people? And, you know, the whole idea of the mindset map tool is that we wanted to really map the mindset. So take away this mystical idea of, you know, mindset is something that's in the head, it can be seen, it's behind your forehead, it's in the brain, it's neurochemical, and we don't understand it. But like, what if we were able to map this out? And so we came up based on a lot of research and modeling, and, you know, this was done both in Europe and North America, with this system where we basically noticed that there are certain things that leaders and entrepreneurs want. You know, there are some certain core outcomes. It's either about establishing more financial robustness or scaling the business, or it's more about, you know, making a meaningful contribution, or finding more satisfaction in the work that they're doing, or it is about innovation and resilience, and, you know, like some combination of those. So the thing is, when you look at those, there are different, very characteristic, very specific mindsets that can support achieving those goals. So what we've done with this tool, and we've made it available online now, is that you can basically take an inventory, and it's going to map your mind, and it's going to compare it
One thing to point out here is that you can see some of the role models there. There's many different ones that are covered in the different books. These are some of the more well-known, like Anita Roddick, you know, Richard Branson, Mohammed Yunus, who's a Nobel Prize winner for microcredit, and then, you know, Jeff Bezos, Howard Schultz of Starbucks, and then of course the inimitable Steve Jobs. But these are just examples of sort of iconic mindsets in different areas. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we've also done is to make the mindsets understandable. We chose certain kind of archetypal figures, mm-hmm. who represent a typical mindset. And so if somebody thinks about Steve Jobs, they sort of probably immediately think, oh yeah, I want to put a dent in the universe. You know, that's the Steve Jobs comment. But if you think about somebody like Anita Roddick, that was never her idea. She was not a dent in the universe person. She was somebody who was really wanting to make a meaningful contribution. And so, you know, what we're saying though, that all of us have the potential for these different mindsets. And just as we know from NLP, of course, we have our strengths, but we can develop these mindsets, and that's part of what, you know, this tool is for.
Right. So, you know, that was kind of our thinking about the tool, and you know, the idea is mindset is key, but we need to learn to map it and also unlock it, because sometimes we get stuck. And so mindset is often portrayed, by the way, as a tendency that you're born with, that you're either fixed mindset or growth mindset. And, you know, it kind of puts people in boxes. Often, you know, when you take a personality profile, it puts you in a box. And, oh, yeah, so I'm ENTJ. So, you know, I can't pay attention to my introvert because I'm extroverted now. So I'm sorry. And so people kind of start using these things the wrong way. And so we really wanted to emphasize this idea. No, you know, mindset is actually something that you can set, your mind set, right? And so what are some of the applications? Well, you know, first of all, we're going to send a link to everybody, and they're going to be able to take the inventory and map their mind. And it's a free tool that's available. So you're all going to come with your mind map. We want to actually do a demo, a live coaching demo with somebody, and help, illustrate how do you use that in coaching, and how do you sort of either self-coach or work with a mindset map coach, and what is the power of that. And then, from the angles of the participants, I'm sure there's going to be people who are managing an HR team. So you will learn how to use it in perhaps individual coaching, or using it with a team to help a team align their mindset. Because not only we want to be aligned as an individual, but if we work in a team, we need an aligned mindset for the team. Then, there are applications in talent development and change management that we will be covering a little bit. So we can't, as you said, it's 90 minutes, so we can't cover everything, but we will certainly show the perspective from all those angles. And then, like if you're an entrepreneur, well, then you can use it to determine, if you decided what your next goal is, what your next focus is for the next couple of years, then there's a certain mindset that's going to be really helpful to take you there. So we'll be helping people to realize whether, this mindset is in alignment with their goal, or do they need to shift something. And, we want to be able to demonstrate that, as we said, live there. There's also the potential that, you have your team, so you want to use this tool with your team. So we'll be talking a little bit about that too. So those are just some of the ideas that, people can take away from the session.
By the way, the mindset and how it's been used is in a couple of the chapters of the generative consulting book as well. So we use it in coaching, we use it in consulting, and it really is, like we say, sort of cherry picking these key aspects from all of the different success factor modeling, models. So a bit about leadership, a bit about entrepreneurship, a bit about working collectively with others. So we think it will be something that's really useful for people. And now again, what happens with this map is that at the conclusion of it, it gives you recommendations. So it says, okay, here's your mindset. Here's your current mindset map. Given what you want to try to accomplish, here would be a more ideal mindset. Yeah. And so and then it says, here are some of the tools that will be helpful for you. And these are, obviously, many of them are coming right out of NLP. We just also the last kind of a little bit of an explanation about that. We do look at 3 areas of mindset, what we call meta mindset, macro mindset, and micro mindset. And we can see, that one is sort of more about big picture clarity, one is more about your ongoing habits of success, and then one is about what are your current priorities. So I think it's a very comprehensive resource for people.
Absolutely, and I'm sitting here thinking how amazing it is, because from what you've said is going to be in your presentation, it really is going to appeal to everybody. Which is really useful, because the way we've structured the conference is that actually your presentation is crossing all 6 streams.
Wow.
So there is nobody else presenting at the same time as you. And okay, the benefits of a virtual presentation is that everybody can watch the recordings afterwards. Everybody who's purchased a ticket can watch the recordings afterwards. However, on Saturday at 4 p.m, there is Robert and Mickey.
I think it's been impressive just listening to you, how that appeal maps across to everybody as well, because you've described the personal development side of it, and then there's the organizational development side of it as well. Yeah, and scalability of it from personal to, it helps with self-awareness as well as helping an organization to be more self-aware and generative. I love it. I think it's
exactly, Cash. That's you put you really put your finger right on it. That one of the fundamental tenets of success factor modeling is that your personal life and the rest of your life is not separable. Meaning, if I want to take my business or my venture to a new level, I've got to take myself to a new level. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to have to take my relationships with my family to a new level. I mean, because what we know that happens so often is that something suffers, right? If I'm working to take my business to this other level, my health is suffering, my family is suffering, my relationships are suffering, I am suffering. And that is absolutely, not sustainable. And I think for this new world that we're all moving into, hopefully this post-COVID world, we need new and generative solutions. And that's what really we want to get at with this presentation, that people, we need the resources, we need some of these maps that help us to really create truly a new and better world.
I remember, learning map is not the territory, and, then trying to have these conversations with other people to explain what that means. And isn't it lovely that now with this tool, we can actually show a map? Because, funny enough, that's how people work. So, one of the feedbacks that we've been getting from entrepreneurs and coaches and psychologists is that this tool is a conversation starter. Because, you sit down with your client, they haven't been to, an NLP training yet. They have not read, 3 volumes of Success Factor. They will, I guarantee, after working with us. But at this point, they haven't, right? So how do you start a conversation? And this is a really simple way to kind of do something that's tangible, do something that's, going to produce an outcome and a map, and we can look at it and we can start a conversation. And from there, so much is possible. So we are actually seeing this as a new business development tool for people in the NLP profession, people who use NLP in their work. There you go. So that's...
And it's not only, I do want to emphasize that it's not only about business development. I think it is, as Kash, as you were pointing out, because my project could be, one of the people I was coaching, her project was the Happy Family Project. So it's like, okay, if we do look at our family as a project and say, okay, if I am the entrepreneur, and what I want to create is, a happy, healthy family, what mindset do I have to do that? And so actually, as Gregory Bateson, one of my big mentors, said many years ago, everything is a metaphor for everything else. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that while this, as Mickey was pointing out, is a really, very powerful and pragmatic business tool, it is also something that, I used this tool to coach my son 4 years ago when he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do with his life, and it was really, really helpful.
Yeah. And I think what's so encouraging is the flexibility that you're explaining, because like you say, with sort of Myers-Briggs and things like that, sometimes and I know I've done various personality type tests in the past and thought, but I don't like being that one. I don't want to be that one.
Right.
I want to be that other one. And so it's lovely that actually I have an option now to just move across.
I think that's always been the wonderful thing about NLP, even though people do try to pigeonhole people into some learning style, or you're visual or you're kinesthetic. But really, I think the gift of NLP has always been to say, well, yes, we have our proclivities, but we have, an infinite potential. Mm-hmm. And we can, when we know the tools, when we know the way and we have the tools, we can release more of that potential. We don't have to be, as Mickey was saying, stuck in this box. And so I think that's another, it's the legacy of NLP, is that we can, throughout our whole life, it never ends, keep releasing more of our potential.
Yeah. And by the way, one thing we haven't mentioned, or for say, the idea of culture. So how do you create a culture at home, in your organization, in your team? And, culturally, so culture is just the way we do things around here, right? Like that's on the level of outcomes, but there is a mindset behind it.
Exactly.
And I was always, so excited with Carol Dweck's book about, the growth mindset. And I'm seeing big corporations saying, okay, we want everybody in the growth mindset. But it's an interesting question. Like, what is the growth mindset look like now that everybody is working from home and we are never meeting in the same room? So there's such nitty gritty, that there's so much more to it. And so we really see this as a complementary tool to help people like, okay, so if I want to create this culture, what will it take? What kind of macro, meta, and micro levels, like what's on those levels?
And by the way, the tool itself I think there's 49 distinct tools that the inventory will guide you to, depending upon the specifics of where you are, where you want to go. Many of those tools will be familiar to NLP practitioners, but it's also, I think, why we say this can be useful for people who are doing coaching as well. I mean, it's useful as a self-development tool, but also, as Mickey said, it's good for not only starting conversations, but it really gives you very specific suggestions. I'm sure, I realize that I know we've been talking for 30 minutes, and I'm wondering if there's questions that you guys have, or any questions that might have come in from
comments
Facebook.
Have been coming out on Facebook, so I'm sure from people that you know. So Rita's watching. Rita, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Oh yes.
hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
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 Rita, hallelujah.
From
So
Portugal, from Lisbon.
Right.
That's right, from Portugal. Suzanne is Suzanne Henwood, who's in New Zealand. She's also on Facebook watching.
Wow.
Nick Fragia,
Welcome.
he's in Greece. So we definitely have an international audience, and I can only see certain comments. There are other comments which
Are there questions? And do I think you guys also have a
We're
few more.
still agreeing with you at the moment.
Sarah is saying hello and greetings, and he's saying best wishes for the conference. Lena Marie Monsal is saying thank you, Robert. Bev Martin is saying thank you for this. Shannon, who's one of our fantastic team members, says fantastic company, and for Mickey, and on International Men's Day. Yeah, thank you very much from Maria, Bell, and Falcon. There's lots of people saying thank you. Along with us, we're saying thank you as well.
No questions at all.
Well, do you have some other questions for us?
Well, I mean, I think you've answered so much already, because I think, as you've said, having the conference in a virtual environment next year, it does bring its own interesting challenges, and you've already explained so eloquently how you're going to add value within the virtual environment, and still doing a live coaching within that environment will be just amazing. I suppose one of the questions I have, I mean, Robert, I appreciate you've been to the conference a few times before. And Mickey, you're new to the conference, which is also lovely, because actually you're both bringing different things. So I'd just like to ask both of you, what does the conference mean to you?
Oh, well, that's for me, there's something, I think this is, for me, the one true international NLP conference that really is open to all of the schools. I've never seen a more welcoming and experienced a more welcoming environment than when I've been with you guys at this conference. There's none of this, that person's from that school, that person's from that school, where people actually, and I think when you're in that kind of environment, there's naturally a desire to listen to each other rather than to sort of criticize or blame. And that's been one of the really, really wonderful experiences that I've had there. It's just that sense of everybody being open and wanting to learn from each other. I think people who get into NLP obviously are interested in change, and they're interested in changing themselves and helping others to change. And to do that, we need to learn. And there's just so many wonderful presenters and presentations. I mean, it's my favorite conference. I mean, just to say that, and it's my favorite of all time of any NLP conference. So you guys just do a magical job. So that's what it means to me. So.
Well, I have to say, it's made by the people who are there. We are but a small part of facilitating, bringing people together, the presenters, the exhibitors, and of course the delegates, and our lovely stewards as well, who we're all there in person. We'll have all these people at the conference next year, just in a slightly different environment. And Mickey, what does it mean for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Ian McGilchrist's book. You know, his book is The Divided Brain, one of his books. So we have a divided brain, and we know that only the corpus callosum, this little thing, connects, you know, the left and right hemispheres, and that they are thinking fundamentally differently. And, you know, everything is a metaphor for everything. So this is a metaphor for our world. You know, like, I don't think we have ever lived in a more divided world than we're living right now. So these kinds of forums of coming together and being able to have these conversations without partisanship, you know, like, I belong to this place, I belong to that place, this ideology, that mentor, that guru, I think is so important. And I think this event models that. So I'm very much in alignment with it.
And, you know, Mickey, you were saying before, how do you create a culture? How do you, how do you create a mindset? I know you both are very humble about this and with your team, but it's your mindset that creates that mindset. I mean, the other side of this notion of everything being a metaphor for everything else is this idea that the whole is in every part. And, you know, that the way that you conduct yourselves and the way that you treat everybody that comes, I think is, as the hosts, is really, you know, what sets the tone of the culture. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have some questions.
We
get some questions.
We
Yay.
have some questions from Suzanne Henwood, who said that one of the big issues right now is stress and anxiety. I'm sure this would be this being SFM and the generative work would be useful in that area. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I have a response right away. Then Mickey, you can add to that. You know, I was mentioning there's 3 areas of mindset: meta mindset, which is our big picture clarity, and that's around what we call it, you know, our passion, our vision, our mission, our ambition, our role. But then there's macro mindset, and macro mindset is what we call our habits of success. And I think that's that area of mindset that speaks really to Suzanne's question there. Because a big part of that is, you know, do I have ongoing ways to, you know, recharge myself? Do I have ways to get, you know, ongoing and accurate feedback? Do I have, you know, am I aware of what some of the real challenges are? And do I have ways to be able to, you know, sort of stay the course? So at that level, this notion of habits of success, this is really about what sort of, you know, pragmatic, ongoing practices that we have to precisely address that. And I mean, because it's absolutely true, and it's probably one of the main things that determines whether you are going to be sustainable or not.
Yeah. Just to offer you like a mini case study, I'm working with this guy who is a ex-senior director, lost his job due to COVID, you know, staying at home like everyone else, getting very anxious, have been applying for jobs, not getting any, getting very frustrated, seeking a coach, an executive coach. You know, I come, we start working, and, you know, I start asking questions like, where would you like to be 2 years from now? Oh, you know, don't ask me that. You know, I want a job now. How do you replenish your battery? Like, how do you recharge? How do you keep your cool? I don't know, you know, I don't need this. I need tangible ideas and tools. What do I tweak in my CV? How do I change my LinkedIn profile? So I said to him, you know, that's like, you know, going to a doctor, like a holistic doctor, and you get treatment and you say, well, I don't want the holistic treatment.
Oh, your sound is gone.
Mickey, we just lost your sound. Right at the key part of the story.
Oops.
There you are. That's the way to build response potential.
He doesn't want the holistic doctor. He wants.
So he wants to go to the surgeon and he wants to have, you know, an operation. So I said to him, you know, bear with us or bear with me. Let's look at these levels. You know, you have a meta level where you have to have a vision, you have to have a purpose. You have this macro level where you have habits that keep you sane. And then we can go to the micro actions, because the micro actions are often very limited. You just have, you know, a LinkedIn profile, you can send CVs. So yes, we can tweak a few things, but it's probably how you do it. It's probably the mindset that you have as you write that letter or speak to that person that's going to determine whether you get that job or not. So it's an interesting time to, and it's an interesting tool to have people to sort of, okay, calm down. Let's.
And we have specific, some of the tools are very specific tools. There are things relating to what we call the coach state, which is to be centered, open, alert, connected, and sort of able to hold what's happening from a place of, curiosity, resourcefulness. So there's, again, that's part of the sort of the wonderful power of NLP, is that you can cover such big territories. I can cover these very specific things like my level of stress in this moment. And then I can cover other things that relate to my sense of a timeline that stretches out, years into the future. And there's no other resource that I know that can do that, and I think that's, again,
and what we suggest is to do, like a lot of people I have seen, they go to an NLP course. Okay, been there, done it. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, I've done it. I've done the timeline. And what they're not getting is that, these tools are meant to become practices and habits on a daily basis. So one of the things that we're like, for example, about stress, like you can't take care of stress 9 o'clock on a Sunday and then it's gone for a month. It just doesn't work. It's going to come back all the time, every day. So okay, so then what is the daily practice? I understand you've done coach state before, but are you doing it every single day? And sometimes that's the only answer we need. Like, just do it.
Sometimes, what's been your average coach state for the last week? 0 to 10, where 10 is great and 0 is, completely stressed out. And that's a very interesting feedback. Any other questions, Cash? Any other comments?
We're having lots of comments. Things like Rita is saying to that last comment about putting it in the muscle.
Yes.
So practicing every day means putting it into your muscle memory, mental muscle.
Absolutely. We say that you become what you practice. My wife Deborah has been studying mindfulness meditation, and she's starting to do. She does two practices a week for people that call in, just to give people that opportunity. And I really absolutely see the benefits of practice. It's subtle, but it creates this elevating baseline that just makes everything easier.
One of the other questions was from Bev Martin, who suggested that we put together a pre-conference reading list.
Okay.
That would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
I've said it's a fantastic idea. We'll definitely get onto that.
Yeah.
So any other presenters at the conference who might be watching, then we'll be coming to you to ask for your suggestions as to what needs to go onto the pre-conference reading list. Success Factor Modeling, I suspect, being one of the books.
Yes, that's true.
Definitely.
We've just had a comment from Lucy Heary as well, who was saying,
She's in Ireland, isn't she?
She's in Ireland. I was so looking forward to attending my first ever conference last May. Now I'm so looking forward to the 2021 virtual conference. Specific tools and practices to encourage, maintain growth mindset are so valuable in these uncertain times. NLP as a daily practice, make it a habit.
Yeah. One of the programs that I've been doing a lot in the past months is called SFM for Challenging Times. And that's what a lot of that is about, is, how do we put that into, an ongoing application, given what's happening for all of us in this really tricky time. And again, one of the things that we often speak about is that, the notion of crisis. Crisis, comes from Greek, and it literally means decision. So crisis time is a decision time. And I always love that notion that the Chinese character for crisis is danger and opportunity. And so we need these practices that help us, of course, to respond creatively and resourcefully to the dangers, which are very obvious, but also to be able to identify and then take advantage of these opportunities. And I mean, what I'm really hoping with this conference is that I really believe that you should have triple the number of people that would be there in person, because it is just so valuable. It's so valuable. And I know many of the other presenters personally, and, I'm excited about what they have to.
So if you haven't been to an NLP conference, this is the time.
This is the one.
Well, I'm personally excited because the last 3 conferences that we've run, we've had some amazing presenters, your good selves, and loads of really great presenters. And I haven't seen a single presentation in the last 3 years because we spent all day running the conference. And the fact that we're going to have recordings from all the presentations means that actually at some point after the conference, we, the team, the stewards, can actually sit down and enjoy everything that everybody else is going to enjoy during those 3 days. We'll actually get the opportunity to be able to see the presentations ourselves.
Yeah, well, and some of those names you were reading there, for example, Rita Alleluia, I know she has done wonderful work with parenting and generative parenting, and that is just, if we think about the future of our planet is based upon, our children and our grandchildren, and they're a consequence, that their resourcefulness is a consequence of our parenting.
Yeah.
So,
and I think another point here, which is very important, is the whole nature, the virtual nature of the conference. We are having this conversation on a virtual platform, and I think often NLP people, soulful people, heartful people, have a hard time embracing AI and virtual stuff, and like, I don't like that. I would rather be there. So it's a really interesting moment for us to sort of look at technology and see, can we turn this around? Like, technology was not meant to create all the problems it has created, as some of the founders, openly talk about it now. And I don't think the idea is that we now ban our children from going on Facebook, because it's not going to work. I don't think it's a solution for us to ignore Zoom and ignore, like we say, okay, so if I can't go to the conference face to face, I'm not going to go at all. The question is, how do we use all these tools, all this generativity, all this beauty that we have, and embrace technology? And so
I agree. I think, Mickey and I have been doing a lot of Zoom programs together, in fact, and I've done many of these things now in the last months, and there are some definite advantages, and I think this is important for this conference. Number one, the thing I always like to point out with this is just like we're doing right here, everybody has a front row seat. Nobody's in the back of the room and can't hear. I mean, everybody does, has a front row seat. Number two, when we do demos, usually what we do if we're working on Zoom is we have everybody sort of close their camera and go to, just view the, or hide the non-video participants. So they're seeing exactly what I'm seeing when I'm doing the demo. They're not in some other angle trying to listen to because the microphone isn't working right or the person's talking too quiet. And then, of course, it's recorded, and the recording is basically it's the same quality of recording all the time. So, and I've also found, and Mickey, you can probably also speak to this, that when I've done, my trainings and when I've done, especially my demos, I don't find the screen as being a barrier. Actually, I find the screen connects me also to people, and we have deep connections through this. I mean, and the other thing I like to tell NLP people is, if you can do it online, for sure you can do it in person. So if you can learn to do this way, you will definitely be able to do it in person. So it actually gives us quite a few advantages. So and also not only that, but the fact that distance now is much less of a barrier.
Yeah.
I just did this last weekend. I did one program in Japan where there was 2,700 participants. I did another program in Bogota, Colombia. Next week I'm doing something in Uruguay. So we really have that possibility to reach so many more. And by the way, and I think that is what this conference is really, does so well and provides an opportunity for, is without really reaching out. And I know that you will have a wonderful group.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the virtual travelling is so much easier, isn't it?
Absolutely.
See all the places you've been in the last couple of weeks. Wow.
I think
Without having to leave the house.
Exactly.
the other thing that we have our NLP community cafe every
Oh
month,
yes, great.
and which you were surprisingly at one of them, Robert. However, I think the thing that struck me with all of those meetings, every single one of them, there has been something learned and a connection made between new people. And I think one of the concerns about the virtual conference when we moved to it was, can we still have that networking happen? Can people still connect? And I think we've proved over the last 6 months with our community cafes that people can connect.
Yes.
Really collaborate with, and go offline and do some amazing things.
And we've still got the same app that we've used at the last 3 conferences, which is designed for that networking. So we kind of had a head start from that perspective, in that we already had the networking side of it nailed with the Hoover app, and so
the Hoover app
there already, and we just
virtual.
Can we make this virtual? And apparently we can. So it's an interesting challenge. We're still learning how to use the technology, as I've already demonstrated.
And you're showing how well you learn. That's great.
And it's all good fun. Do we have any more questions, Kat?
No, Suzanne Henwood is saying, love Zoom and will also always value dancing on a stage with you, Robert, in London.
Yes.
Bev Martin is repeating the everyone has a front row seat. And Rita is saying, thank you, dear Robert. Your contribution it's essential on this path. Thanks for your love and support. Well,
thank you. Mickey, I don't know if you had anything to add about the Zoom platform, or, what you've learned.
No, I think, we've pretty much said it, but it's this idea that I have also found that actually it's easier to get on to the track and really start something very substantial, because people have kind of less of a need, like I know it starts at this time, it ends at that time, and I really want to get something done. And so, there's not that, like you still want to build rapport. I don't want to take that away. I mean, I think rapport is still the basis of everything. But at the same time, somehow, we are ready to jump into the water. Mm-hmm. Like, here we are. Let's get to action. So just embrace it. Let's use it as an opportunity to spread collective intelligence all over the world.
I found an interesting thing I'll just throw in here too, because it's why I like to use this space, because I can easily stand up and move. And usually when I'm doing a Zoom, I'm at some point having people stand up, and then we're going to be doing like a coach state Tai Chi at some point. And it's actually really wonderful to get, to have people literally, standing on different parts of the world, and yet we're sort of co-creating this field together. Because I think one of the things I like to do with Zoom is make sure that we do keep the body, participating and active. And we Mickey and I will be doing that as well in our, because 90 minutes it's a long time to sit just in front of a computer. So we will be moving and
some coach Tai Chi. Yeah, we'll do it.
We do have another question from Pedro Roja, who's saying, thanks, Robert and Mickey. It's always a pleasure to be present in your competence presentations. I've got a question for Robert regarding rapport. How do you do it? That's my main difficulty.
Rapport. Wow. Well, rapport, the main thing for rapport is be interested in other people and open your heart. So to me, the power, for me, rapport comes primarily through resonance. And resonance means, what is it that is in both of us, that's active. I always like to start with, there's a beautiful poem by one of my colleagues, Nick LaForce, who I don't know if has he presented at the conference yet?
He was due to.
He can't do the dates next year, which is really unfortunate.
Well, Nick has this wonderful poem. It's titled "We Are Messengers," and it's for NLP people. And it says, "We are messengers. We may leave our footprints on the earth, but we walk in heaven. Our light shines beyond our own vision. Our words sink deeper than our own wisdom. We teach that what we have lived before does not determine who we can become. And we follow a simple truth of the heart, that what we see in others, we awaken in ourselves, and we become what we give to the world. Now, I think of that poem in answer to this question, especially this part of saying, you know, what we see in others, we awaken in ourselves. And so for me, rapport comes because I'm looking for, again, to think about it this way, if I'm seeing what I don't like, if I'm seeing if I'm seeing their failures, if I'm seeing their faults, if I'm seeing their problems, I'm awakening that in me. But if I'm seeing their magic, if I'm seeing, you know, their potential, then I'm awakening that in me. And for me, that's always the first thing I'm doing. Rapport comes from a basic interest and curiosity about other people. Mickey, I'm sure you also have a lot to add.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, a lot of the things that we say about rapport in NLP also work through virtual environments. So, you know, pacing and leading. I think one of the interesting things that happens for me, you know, you mentioned standing up, but also, you know, like turning the camera so that people can see your hands and your upper body and not just your face is very important. In fact, turning on the camera, because a lot of people don't turn on their camera, right? So it's you know, it's creating some kind of an engagement through resonance, through movement, through our voice, through our silences, through our questions, our reactions, you know, so that's what happens. That's how we build rapport.
Mm.
Robert, Lucy is asking, where can I read it? In fact, where could I read that poem? That and Rita's already answered by saying at Nick's website. It's Nick Laforce. He is a lovely person. We actually covered one of his books in Rapport a couple of issues ago.
Yeah.
He's an amazing poet.
It is. And I love that last line of his poem, by the way, as well, which is, we become what we give to the world. And so what do we give to the world? You know,
Yeah.
If we give our complaints, we become a complainer. You know, if we give our criticism, we become a critic. But if we give our magic, we become a magician. If we give, you know, our resources, we become resourceful. I think that's so fundamental. And that's all about mindset, by the way. It's mindset.
And this idea of walk the talk, right? Like that's where it's a practice every day. How am I going to walk my talk today? You know, with my son, with my wife, with my dog, with my business customers on Facebook live stream. Like, how am I going to walk the talk? How am I going to be me? How am I going to be my purpose? How am I going to embody the values today? It's a question every day. And I don't know, like we have to discover.
Yeah.
But we have to ask the question.
Curious to discover what's possible. I think just as a final comment about rapport, as Mickey and I was saying, it starts with the mindset. You know, what is the mindset of rapport? And to me, the mindset of rapport starts with curiosity about somebody else, respect, interest, care. And that naturally will lead you to finding that. So again, for who asked that question, I would say, try that mindset. I think it will.
Yeah, you know, the beginner's mindset, as they call it in Japanese Zen. It's like as if you've done this for the first time. Be curious. Don't let yourself be carried away with experience, you know, with your map of the world. Right.
Right. Because what has happened before does not determine who we can become. I think that's. I'm aware, guys, that it's we're reaching our. But time has flown.
Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure.
So there's Anil Thomas says, so nice to see and hear this. Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
Thank you, Mickey, as well. I mean, this has been it's been a joy for us on a cold, slightly damp, dark evening. You have brought light into our day. Thank you, and thank you on behalf of all the people that have been listening and all of those who will be watching at some point. Just to remind everybody that you can see Robert and Mickey across all streams of the conference on Saturday the 15th of May. Their presentation starts at 4 p.m, which will be BST because it's next May. So do please go onto the conference website, nlpconference.com, and get your tickets whilst the super early bird price is still available.
Yes, super early bird prices. That's the other thing that's important.
Super early bird price until the end of November.
Flying away, catch it.
Thank you
Right.
both.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
guys.
much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Cash.
It's
Yeah.
been really lovely to spend time with you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And look forward to seeing you next May.
Yes, same here.
Take care.
Thank you both.
Yeah, stay
you, Robert.
healthy. Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, stay healthy, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.